Been a long wait, but the Tour has finally arrived at its first big mountaintop finish in the Alps, and it's on stage 13. Hello and welcome to the Tour de France, where the battle for yellow is heating up. Stage 13, and hopefully the climbers aren't superstitious. It starts in Saint-Etienne, makes its way through the Chamrose, and it's got the first Hors category climb of the race, and that is through to the finish line. And there's a category 1 climb that precedes it, with the intermediate sprint sandwiched in the middle. 197 kilometres of racing. A sombre mood at the start of the race. A minute's silence to pay respects to the victims of MH17, and also we saw today the burying of Jean-Louis Gaultier, a French cyclist who held the yellow jersey in the Tour de France in 1983. The two Dutch teams, Belkin and also Giant Shimano, they led the move within the peloton to wear the black armbands to mark their respects to the victims of that tragedy with the Malaysian Airlines flight that we got news of yesterday as the stage was happening. Many of the riders from those Dutch teams are familiar with that flight, particularly Koen de Kort, who spends a lot of time in Australia. He said when he got the news of it, he felt completely empty, as he has flown that route more than once. Breakaway group of 9 forming very early, and as they went across the top of the first climb, a Category 3 climb, Giovanni Visconti picked up the points ahead of Belcadre across the top of the Col de la Croix de Montvu. Visconti with 2 points in the race for the King of the Mountains jersey, but he's not a big challenger at this point. Not yet anyway, because the real race for that white jersey with the famous red dots on it, that is still to come as we head into the high mountains.
He will come up in third place, not too far behind Bakelants, so they should get together. We have a pretty long descent now.
Yep, fairly long, quite tricky. 1 minute and 37 behind the leader, Luis Angel Mate. Got a great nickname, by the way. His nickname is the Andalusian Lynx. I think because the Lynx is a cat and he likes to pounce into the breakaways.
And as the peloton come up here, led by the American Chris Horner, you can see the polka dot jersey on the right, and that's Joaquim Agostino. He'll want to get a few points. He looks as though he's under pressure. But the rider directly behind here, behind Horner, is his teammate and the world champion, Rui Costa. And it's no coincidence, Paul, they were both feeling ill yesterday. It looks like they've recovered.
Well, Horner, you never know when you look into the face of Chris Horner, Phil, whether he's smiling or grimacing.
No, you can't tell.
One man grimacing, though, I would think at the back of the group, we're getting information that Kwiatkowski is having a very difficult time.
Yes, he's a young rider. He's had the white jersey and he's tried very, very hard to get the yellow for at least a few days. He's paying the price for that hard riding in the first 10 days of this tour. Now Horner coming up. Here's the move by Joaquim Rodriguez. He'll get the 4th place points over the top as he goes down over that line. And that's a good result for him. He's keeping his position in the King of the Mountains.
Just behind him in the blue is Thibaut Pinot at 2:45 was the time gap I got. Now, the young guy just going through there in the dark blue jersey, he's a real star for the future of France. This is Kwiatkowski. These riders just scooching across the road there looking for bottles. Making themselves, keeping themselves topped up as we run down towards the finish.
Now, what I always worry when the cameras go back to something, and look at this, right round the wooden rails there. This is Mate. Desperate chances now, because he knows he can catch up with Bakelants if he makes a very daredevil descent here. And if we can get 3 riders at the front, they could take this race to the top in Chamrose.
Well, it's a long way to go, and there's a lot of climbing left to get to the finish. 12 miles of climbing, the final climb of the day. Looking here, this man, he's not waiting for any reinforcements to come up from the rear, and he still leads this race by a good margin. So 1:21, in fact, and not far behind Jan Bakelants is Luis Angel Mate, and 2:53 to the main field. It actually went up to 3.5 minutes. This is back on board with the man who leads this race. Alessandro De Marchi is looking at, I think we'll see a regrouping behind in 2nd and 3rd place. In fact, they are still saying that Pinot is in 4th on the road. So that will have been a 5th place at the summit of the Col du Palaki for Joaquim Rodriguez. He's got a 1-minute advantage over Bacalans now, and it'd be interesting to get the information on what exactly that bike change was for. Chris Horner was looking very comfortable, so there it is, a confirmation. Pinot was 4th and Rodriguez 5th at the top of the climb. Again, it's just a question of chipping away at the points. He's the man who started. He's got himself 2 points there. He still leads Vokler. Up into 3rd place, the man we're looking at here, Alessandro De Marchi, with 28. Tony Martin is 4th, and down to 5th is Vincenzo Nibali. Back with Bacalans. His gap is around about 1 minute, but only about 10 or 15 seconds behind him is the Cofidis rider. This rider here, Luis Angel Mate. Well, they're saying 150, although Race Radio said it was a lot closer than that. Having a look in this group to see, there is the white jersey with the yellow helmet, and that is Romain Bardet, the youngster from France. He has a huge career ahead of him. He's just on the push to talk button there, talking back to the team car behind. And Bardet, for many people, feel that he's got a very good chance of doing something today. Up the climb there, De Marchi was the fastest rider. He rode a minute faster than Jan Bacalans and a minute 30 faster than the main field.
Which is auguring well for the last climb of the day if he keeps on making progress, because descending behind him, the boys are not getting much closer. It's still being shown as a minute and 4 seconds, Bacalans, and then just approximately 38 seconds back to Mate. Pinot is still on his own at 2:40, and then comes the group at 2 minutes and 53.
Well, just looking now, keep looking to try and ascertain how many riders from Team Astana are in this group. But the slow descent that these guys are adopting right now could give a chance for some of Vincenzo Nibali's riders to come back into this group to help him over the next few kilometers. One team looking quite strong with a number of representatives is the riders in the dark blue, and that's the teammates of Alejandro Valverde. That's the view, in fact, almost from our commentary position, and looking down there you can see down in the valley below Grenoble. 38 is the department number. It's the main town in the Isère region. It was formerly the capital of the Dauphiné, and for many people it's regarded as the capital of the Alps, and it's almost practically the center of the French part of the Alps. So Grenoble is situated. Oh, there's a crash. Somebody has gone down. Well, I think that was Jakob Fuglsang who's gone down there, and it was in the corner, and he just hit a little bit of gravel. The rider from just going past. It is there you go, confirmation 42. Again, this is such a crazy Tour de France, and they were going slowly. There was no race going on. He looks well. He's gone down just as we went around that corner. You can see the rider from Tinkoff. He's seen him. He's panicked, and he's gone around him in between the bike and Fuglsang. Well, spraying himself down. The doctor hasn't got there yet because in fact the doctor there in the white car are moving away. Let's just have a look at that one more time. It looks as if he might just have touched the wheel of the rider in front of him, and he skids over to the right-hand side. And I can tell you from experience that that kind of crash, more often than not, is not the most serious kind of crash. It's usually crashes at speed like that, normally mainly superficial because you slide. And he will have heard. Now that is rather bad news for Vincenzo Nibali. He's touching the push to talk button right now to try and get some kind of confirmation of exactly what the situation is. Of course, Jakob Fuglsang is in 10th place in the overall standings, but a serious ally, a lieutenant, if you like, for Vincenzo Nibali. Looking back, wants to know exactly what's going on. Richie Porte just sitting in the middle there. There you can see the crash just behind, and it was up to the front end of the main field, and I'm pretty certain that he touched the back wheel of the rider in front of him. So that crash didn't happen. He's got a serious amount of road rash. It looks okay. It would appear to be superficial. It has been a very rapid start to the day, and in fact it's still 41.7 kilometers an hour average. This is the intermediate sprint point at Saint-Martin-d'Air. Not really important for this rider. 20 points in the green jersey points competition, not something that will interest him. 1,500 euros prize money to go into his back pocket, and in fact his team leader Peter Sagan is one of the riders who's won the most amount of money individually so far in the Tour de France, just behind Marcel Kittel. Not too much, around about 25 to 26,000 euros. Back in the main field, a little bit of organisation as riders recover after the descent. "27 kilometers to go." We're not far away now. It's a strange start to the climb, because once we've gone through the sprint point here with Jan Bakelants, we start to climb up a little bit to the small town of Iragir, and then that's when the measured part of the climb comes. 46 seconds at Jan Bakelants in second place.
You can do it. We pick up by him. Stay concentration, because you are also him. He did in the last before the block there. Okay? He's there. We are only 30 seconds now.
Information coming from the team manager there, just letting him know that he's at around about 40 seconds. This is the main group. They're about to pick up Luis Angel Mate. So obviously Jérôme Pinot was caught on the descent. So Mate now is back in the main group, and interesting to see that it's FDJ, the Française des Jeux team, doing the pacemaking. Their man Thibaut Pinot is the second place Frenchman in the overall standings. He is in 5th place overall at the start of the day. And the French have said no inhibitions, not concerned about reputations of some of the more established professional riders. These are all the youngsters from France who are now starting to break through. They've got still, we're looking at 3 French riders in the top 7 in the overall standings, and that's Bardet from AG2R is 4th, Pinot from FDJ is 5th, and Jean-Christophe Perrault, the mountain biker, silver medalist in the Olympic Games in the mountain bike, he is at 37 years of age, 7th overall. That's Pinot in 3rd position there. Looks like Mick Rogers has also been picked up, so we're going to start to line ourselves up for the approach of this climb. There's not many riders actually in this group. Vincenzo Nibali looking quite comfortable, but he doesn't seem to have a strong contingent of teammates from Team Astana up alongside him. Grenoble, if we look over to the right-hand side, Grenoble sits at the bottom of the climb of the Bastille, where if you climb up there, you can look right the way down into the valleys of the Isère, Guez-du-Vaudon and the Drac. And you can reach up there by cable car. In fact, this year there was rather a strange situation where, because of the heavy winds, the cable cars had a serious problem, and a number of people were stranded in the cable cars going up to the La Bastille, and they had to abseil down. And they call them the bubbles, and it was from the bubbles there, people that used to go up to the citadel up on the top, which is called La Bastille. 3.5 minutes. It's Greg Van Avermaet coming up. He's going to try and grab himself a few points there. Well, Van Avermaet's obviously thinking about the green jersey points competition. He's not placed inside of the top 5 at the start of the day, but a few points here and there could see him pulling himself up a little bit closer. Peter Sagan leads that competition with 340 points to Brian Cocard's 191. Chance to see the beautiful Vercors down to the bottom on the right-hand side there. You can see Grenoble. That's the valley of the Isère that the riders have come along, and we will move away from there to start our climb, the final climb of the day, a mountaintop finish up to the summit of Chameroux.
So, as we look here again at the beautiful Massif overlooking. Paul, do you know anything about this? It's beautiful.
Well, this part of the world is really where the 1968 Olympics were held, and that's why it was so important when we look down in Grenoble. And it's really at the 1968 Olympics that Jean-Claude Killy became the major star in France, where he won 3 Olympic gold medals.
Yes, and for a while he was chief man in organisation of the Tour de France as well.
25 kilometers to go. Normally that would take not much more than 35 minutes, but the final climb of the day in my calculations is going to take between 40 and 50 minutes, and that is around about 18 kilometers, so we're still quite a way from there.
The Belkin team, the Dutch squad, they've had a good tour so far. They won stage 5 with Lars Boom. Their big prospects today, Bauke Mollema, who sits in 8th position overall. We're joined by their sports director, Frans Maassen, who's out in the car behind the peloton. Frans, what are your expectations of Bauke Mollema today?
We're going to go full today because it's a really important day, and we will see what's in his legs, what he can do among the best riders. This is a long climb. The first one is really hot weather. It's a hard race, so we will see. It will be very hard for everyone in the finish. So we hope he has a really good day. And at the start he felt good, so we will see what's happening.
Going to be very difficult. This is the man who is second on the road, Jan Bakelants. He's about 3/4 of a minute. He's looking a little bit frustrated because he looked as if he was trying to pull himself back, and his team manager kept telling him, look, you're only 400 or 500 meters behind. But you know, all of a sudden when you've been chasing for such a long period of time, you get into a status quo and can't close down those last few seconds.
Peloton, and it's grown a little bit. 1 or 2 riders have come back in. BMC are down there. It's 46 seconds behind the leader is Jan Bakelants. We're getting very close. We're already going up the little foothills as they climb onto the lower slopes of the climb.
We're just limit, and these two guys have been locked in at this limit right now. With 21 kilometers to go to the finish, and that's about 3 kilometers to go to the start of the climb, which roughly is 2 miles. And
yeah,
that should
5 minutes.
Maybe only 3 or 4 on this flat part of the course.
Well, he's looking over his shoulder a lot now, Demarchi, and when I caught a glimpse of him just moments ago, I think he's starting to look very tired, and this is a tough climb. This will finish up at 5,675 feet, and it's a long climb, and there'll be a big crowd on it as well. Maybe they'll keep him going. It's been a brave breakaway, Paul, but out from the 13th kilometre, that's a big call.
It is a huge call, and I think, Phil, that 3-minute advantage that the leader and the second place rider on the road just about have over the main field, that's going to get wiped away quite quickly, because the main contenders will start to feel that this is the chance when they can put out the first little feelers to see if there's any weaknesses in the armour of Vincenzo Nibali. He's shown no weaknesses at all so far, either with the bad weather, the narrow roads of the Yorkshire moors and the dales, or even then now as we start to get to the mountains with the sun coming out, they'll want to know, has this man got any weaknesses at all?
Well, it says to the foot of the climb now, we're closing in on it. Meanwhile, back, this is Jakob Fuglsang, I think, in the pack there. Yes, only just going through the sprint point, which is a considerable way behind these riders now. So it's a matter of damage limitation and just get home as best as possible. Bernard Eisel, the Sky on the front, all smiles. He knows all he's got to do now is climb to the line. No more pressure on him today, nor indeed on Fuglsang.
It's great to see the attitude of this French team here, Française de Jeu. They're setting something up for their youngster, I think, today, Thibaut Pinot. When he first came to the Tour de France a couple of years ago, he really appeared to be a great champion for France and a possible future contender for France as he looked to ride high in the overall standings. But then all of a sudden he really started to panic a little bit. He was 10th in his first participation and won a stage into Porrentruy, which is in Switzerland. And then last year he came to the Tour and he just couldn't go downhill at all. He was it was almost as if he was scared. He was petrified of the downhill part of the course, and he was getting left behind when the race went downhill. So during the winter months, they in fact got him to go onto a motor racing course. They gave him some driving lessons on a motor racing course to learn how to get into the corners, come out of the corners, and just to try and get that fear away from him. And it seems to have worked, because this year he's a completely different rider, and he now currently sits in 5th place in the overall standings. 20 kilometers to go now for the lone leader, and this man has led this race since we went over the first big climb of the day, the Col de Palaquí. This is Alessandro De Marchi. He leads the 2nd place rider on the road, Jan Bakelants, by around about 35 seconds, and the main field now are starting to wind up the pacemaking. It's now down to 2 minutes and 51 seconds. Just looking down there to see how many teammates. So there are 2 teammates of the Astana leader of this race, Vincenzo Nibali. 4 riders in there for Team Movistar, and here's a chance to get an identification of the gap between the 1st and the 2nd place rider on the road. I make it still approximately 38 seconds. I would think in the long straightaways at 500 to 600 meters he should be able to see the rider in front of him, but it's one of those frustrating situations to be in. He can't quite just close down that gap. Well, race radio is saying 38 seconds. The television monitor saying 41, but it's approximately the same. It's just locked in as it has been for the last few kilometers. 2:50 to the yellow jersey. Looking at here, well, look at the speed now. All of a sudden, it's dropped down to 18 kilometers an hour. The speed will take him an hour.
The lone figure now, he really is a hero of the day, Alessandro De Marchi. Win or lose this stage. At the 13th kilometre, he was off with 8 other riders. Now he's on his own, and he's coming to about 17 kilometres from the summit. The peloton are approximately 2.5 kilometres behind him. But the question, Paul, is that enough for this man to survive to the top?
I don't think it will be, Phil, because I really do believe that we're going to have a little bit of a showdown between the top men in the overall standings. We've already seen the French with Team FDJ of Thibaut Pinot, who's well up in 5th place in the overall standing. They've done a lot of pacemaking. Now we've got the team from Spain, Movistar, really throwing caution to the wind. They're trying to set something up for their man, Alejandro Valverde. Now, if it comes to a small group towards the top of this climb, Alejandro Valverde is the man who could be looking for a victory.
Well, these Spanish cyclists love mountains, that's for sure. Valverde is the 4th of these dark jerseys, and he's letting his teammates do the work. John Izagirre is the 2nd rider, as we cut to the back here, because this is Tessato, who, no, it's Leva Wester, who's now looking very, very tired there as they start to face up to the climb.
Well, this could be the tactic that everybody is thinking about today. We've seen a lot of riders from Team Astana disappearing from the group, and now the question could be, will they try and isolate him in a situation like this? Because it's much easier to attack a man when he doesn't have too many teammates up alongside him. He's got 1 teammate currently able to stay with him for the moment. That looks like Kangert is the rider who has managed to stay there. And I'm just waiting for the camera to drop back a little bit and see if there are any other turquoise jerseys of the Astana squad. Now, if he's only got 1 teammate up alongside him, I think he's pretty much, Phil, been up against the ropes.
We'll see just how good he is, I think, because that is Tanel Kangert, and he's not riding well. He's only just come back to the front group after being dropped. So it looks as though the yellow jersey is going to have to fend off attacks that are going to come. Rojas was making the pace from Movistar. We've now got champion John Izagirre, the champion of Spain. The other rider with him is Gad. And you've got Alejandro Valverde himself. Now, these are the riders suddenly have just said enough is enough at the back of that peloton.
Well, they're all calling it a day here. They know that they want to just ride up this climb and get inside of the time limit. It was interesting to note just a little earlier, we saw the average speed of the lone leader, Alessandro De Marchi. It was just down to 18 kilometers an hour. That's only about 11 miles an hour, which means that he will take at that average speed, Phil, about an hour to get to the top of this climb. And I'd calculated that the guy who wins this stage today will probably ascend this mountain around about 50 minutes.
It's still a big gap. They're saying it's about 1 minute and 5 seconds. There he is.
Yes, but I think, Phil, if we just wait a little bit longer, look at that. There is the main field. Movistar, well, there's not very many riders left in that group at all, are there? There's just one rider I noticed from Team Astana, and I wonder what Vincenzo Nibali is thinking this afternoon. And there are still 3 riders in here from Team Sky who have yet to come to the front and show what kind of engine they've got under the bonnet. There's Bakelants, his day over, looking to see. He's probably enjoying seeing how the race is unfolding.
Well, his job's done now. He'll just continue to ride to the summits. He's 20 minutes behind overall anyway. Be more by the end of the day. The red and black figure in the white sunglasses is TJ Van Garderen, receiving a little help from his teammate Peter Stettner. The lone leader continues, 15.7 kilometers to go. He's now on a terrible stretch here. It's 11% here, and the riders continually being dropped. This is Geraint Thomas, and this is a little bit of a surprise. He was right up there alongside Richie Porte, and Thomas now has cracked on the climb, and Bakelant's also going back. He's just been picked up.
Well, he wanted to take on board a drink there. The helper there dropped it, and this is up until 10 kilometers an hour. 10 kilometers to go, they're allowed to take those drinks, which is why the helper ran up alongside him. I also noticed that Nicholas Roach from Team Tinkoff Saxo was also dropped from this group. So, as we expected, Phil, a little bit of a sorting out today. Richie Porte is sitting quite comfortably up there in about 5th or 6th position in that dark black jersey with a blue stripe down the middle.
22 riders in this bunch, and these are the select men of this year's Tour de France. Nibali is looking a little bit lonely down there. His Astana team cracking up. This rider really struggling now, and it's still 15 kilometers to go, and he's impossible to tell you who the next leader in that mountains competition will be, with 50 points on the line. Maybe the yellow jersey himself, because he's already got 20 in the competition. 50 would put him way out front.
Yes, well, good to see Michael Rogers in that group. I have a feeling that he will not be a marked man as we get a little bit closer up to the summit. There you can see with the white sunglasses is TJ Van Garderen riding very confidently. And, you know, road bikes are not the only way to get around these mountains. Mountain bikes are extremely popular.
Yeah, these boys are just coming off the top of the mountain around the back of Champs at the moment. They go up by cable car.
Now, looking down to see how the race is going to unfold, we are still looking at 13 kilometers to go. Now, to put that into perspective a little bit, that is the amount of ascension corresponding to the Alpe d'Huez, which is actually not too far down the valley from here. De Marchi just trying to hang on to the back seat of this bus here this afternoon. Number 67 there, Laurens ten Dam. He's staying in this group for as long as he can to try and help his teammate, Bauke Mollema. 114 there is Chris Horner. 61 is Mollema, the yellow jersey. Right in there is Vincenzo Nibali. It's nice to see a good ride being done there by Peter Stettner, the American rider on Team BMC. 131, Jürgen van der Berg. All of the big leaders in the overall standings are right there currently. Heimar Zubeldia is also in the mix. Today is the decanting. We've seen
Richie Porte, Paul, has slipped to the back of the group, and I'm wondering what is going on. He's talking to his team management. He's come to the back of the group. Is he telling him he has a problem with his bike, or is he cracking?
Well, he doesn't look like a man panicking currently. He's just gone to the back of the group. He had time and the sense to talk to his team management there. So that's a story to follow as we speak. He's slipping off the back.
Yes, Nieve, his last surviving teammate on this 10% section, is coming back to him.
Well, this is the man who started the day in 2nd place in the overall standings. We're coming into the first Alpine stage, and Richie Porte at 2:23 is losing contact.
He's opening the door to allow Alejandro Valverde up onto the podium positions, followed by the 2 Frenchmen, Bardet and Pinot, and then Van Garderen and Perrault and Mollema, because they're all in this group. Well, that is not a good-looking face to me, and it is not a mechanical. Richie Porte is fine in 12 kilometers still left on the day, 12 kilometers too far.
But he's got a teammate with him, Mikel Nieve, to pace him over these final few moments. He's going through a bad patch, and that can happen to anybody on any mountain stage. Peter Stettner's the rider on the left-hand side in the BMC jersey in front of TJ Van Garderen, who's looking over his shoulder. That means that TJ Van Garderen will be looking to move up a place in the overall standings tonight. Now, Richie Porte, what he has to do at a moment like this is not panic, try and find his rhythm. They're saying 10 seconds. It looks a lot more than 10 seconds to me, but the advantage he's got is having a teammate with him. Mikel Nieve, as soon as he saw the problems that Richie Porte was having, he sat up and waited.
So we have the benefit of a contour, and the black stretches, which are the stretches over 9%, there's still plenty of them to come. Now, as we start here, this looks as though we might have Leopold. It is Leopold Koenig who's gone clear, who's a very good climber, and he's taking his chance, but they're going after him. Pino is the first to react here, and no trouble at all for Nibali to latch up with Pino.
Well, that guy has a great name, King Leopold, Leopold King, any which way round you want to say it, and he has gone on the attack. Well, it looks to me as if Chris Horner there in the pink shirt there has dropped back to help the world champion, his teammate. Now there's a little move coming from Team Saxo Bank. That looks, well, it's hard to see from this angle, but I would have expected to be Michael Rogers, but it may well be his teammate. It's his teammate Maschke, the two riders who are up there from Tinkoff Saxo.
Well, that is the rider there. This, it looks like it was Nicholas Roches going through there. Not too sure. Don't think it was. As we were seeing, as Maschke going through from Tinkoff Saxo. Now Belkin are sharpening their teeth here, and an attack coming on the left.
Laurens Tendam, he's going to take the pressure off his teammate. Now we can start to see the action really coming. Who a two-man lead group. Leopold Koenig on the front. Translate that into English, it's King Leopold, and a kingly move here. Maschke is the rider in second position in the fluorescent yellow jersey of Tinkoff Saxo Bank. Now, a bit of calm comes to the yellow jersey group. Those two riders not too dangerous in the overall standings. That's Mick Rogers over to the left-hand side, again in the fluorescent yellow, just been paced onto the back of the group. The world champion there has been aided by his teammate Chris Horner. While the drama here is the time that's going to be lost by Richie Porte at the end of the day. It's already 40 seconds that he's lost, and he will plummet down the overall standings. The only advantage he's got, Phil, is to have a teammate with him, the Spanish rider Mikel Nieve, who is pacing him and nursing him up this climb.
Sometimes you can recover. We've certainly got the kilometres left if you can get into a state of recovery. Richie Porte, remember, having to assume the mantle of team leader and try to win the Tour for Sky. Have won this race for the past 2 years with Bradley Wiggins and then with Chris Froome. Froome crashing out of the Tour on day 5, and Porte being given the nod to have his best opportunity to win the Tour. This is a group. On the right is Alejandro Valverde in the blue. Jurgen van den Broek is here, far right the yellow jersey, and also TJ Van Garderen on the far right as well. Bauke Mollema in the centre. This is now very much the cream of the Tour, and what a select group. And look at this at the back, the world champion has got back on.
So too has number 151. That, of course, was at Pierre Rolland in difficulty with the accelerations. Now that they've calmed down a fraction, he's managed to recover. Valverde's going.
Valverde has made his move. He sensed it. He's gone at 10.5 kilometres to go. Now that should cause a reaction from the field, because Alessandro Valverde overnight was in 3rd place. He knows now with Porte dropped, he'll be in 2nd tonight and inching closer. Nibali can't allow this one to go.
Well, the way he attacked, they were all looking across at each other saying, oh, what are we going to do with a move like that? They have to respond. Vincenzo Nibali, Phil, in the yellow jersey, has got to do it. He's across the gap. So too is Thibaut Pinot in the dark blue jersey. He's struggling to close down that last few meters out of the saddle, back into the saddle. He's looking to get into the slipstream and close down that gap. Let's not forget, though, we've still got two leaders. Maschke in 2nd position there, Leopold Koenig in 1st position. But this is the action. He's looking for a bottle here. Excuse me, let me take the bottle from my team helper. They've got to keep hydrated on this very, very hot day. The temperature creeping up to 90 degrees this afternoon. But, you know, when you're the leader of the race, you have to respond to a move by Alejandro Valverde, and that's exactly what Vincenzo Nibali has done in 2nd place there.
Well, they extended the rules today, but there's no more bottles from the roadside now. The last 10 kilometres to go here. Horner again has gone back here to look after Roy Acosta, and he's going to try and drag him back up. There's the 10 kilometres to go banner. The men that matter, though, are through it, and they're still flying up this Alpine Pass and still fighting to bring back 2 riders who've taken the advantage. But now it is very much a very select group down there.
Laurens ten Dam is the next man just to get onto the back end of the yellow jersey group, and of course France Montagne. Well, I don't think they need to advertise that we're in the mountains here this afternoon, because we are very much in the mountains. Looking at Maška there, Phil, in second position in the overall in the group. He in fact finished 6th overall in the Giro d'Italia this year, as well as being the best young rider in the Criterium International. This is the second group on the road. Alejandro Valverde has said before the start of this Tour de France that he really has the form. And look at the way he's riding like a dominant rider.
Well, he's now thrown the gauntlet straight at Vincenzo Nibali. He starts the day 2 minutes 47 seconds behind Nibali, and he's not gaining a single second on the race leader right now. He just sits there and waits. No more teammates for him. Laurens ten Dam is in 17th place overall, had one bad day and lost a lot of time. Meanwhile, who is left to chase here? Frank Schleck, champion of Luxembourg, and also Baukerman. Here comes an attack by Bardet. We expected this. The best placed Frenchman now is trying to get up to that group.
Well, Bardet has seen the move coming from Jürgen van der Broek, and I think he's going to use that move to act as a leapfrog, and he just accelerates. Just behind him is his teammate Jean-Christophe Perrault, and in the red and black jersey 141 is TJ Van Garderen. AG2R Le Mondial are the leaders in the team classification at the start. Van Garderen's going to go over the top of that now.
Well, this could be a good move, because Van Garderen has always said, let's see how it goes in the Alps. He needs a little bit of time here. He sits in the top 6 riders overall, but he's got to get time. He can't afford to lose any more time to the riders who are now ahead of him overall. Little bit of a flurry, but no reaction, and they settle down again. These are the 2 leaders, Maška and Koenig.
Well, the French riders talk, Phil. They are saying that they're feeding off each other's successor. Romain Bardet is the rider on the front in that white jersey. He's the best young rider. He can feel his white jersey slipping away, and he attacked from the middle of the group the moment he felt that they were slowing down just a little bit too much. But he really is on the defensive, because they are around about a minute behind the yellow jersey group, and that minute could see him dropping down into second place Frenchman and quite possibly losing his lead.
Hey, attacked by yellow. Whoa. Yellow's gone, and now they're going to have to react. And Pino has reacted. So too, with great ease, it appears to me, as Valverde grits his teeth a little bit. This is a huge move by the man who's showing us every day he is the strongest rider in the Tour. Vincenzo Nibali putting in a huge attack. At the moment he attacked, he's looking for 17 seconds to cross to the 2 leaders.
That is a show of defiance to anybody else who think they're going to ruffle the feathers of Vincenzo Nibali here this afternoon. But you know, I take my hat off to the young Frenchman there in the dark blue jersey, Thibaut Pinot. He will continue to chase down. He's only 24 years of age. Look at this move one more time. He waited. He doesn't have any teammates up alongside him and says, right, I'm off now, chaps.
This is a huge effort. All of his team, one by one, fell away. He lost the strong member of his team in the crash coming down the previous climb of the Peliky. And now he's trying to finish off. And look at that, Paul. He has just crossed 17 seconds in about 45 seconds.
Well, a blink of an eye, I suppose you could say. On the front, Leopold Koenig, second place, Rafał Majka. Now there are 3 leaders at the front of this race, but there are big time gaps happening further down the road. The man who started the race as the best young rider, he's free to fly. He's left TJ Van Garderen and the rest of his group behind. Romain Bardet is one of the next few stars for France. These 2 French riders, Phil, they're only 24 years of age each. They really are stars of the future, and they've got no respect to the big reputations. They want to race, and they're going to have a great weekend of French cycling.
They parry the blows daily when the French press say, will you be on the podium in Paris? Will you win your Tour? Because remember, the French haven't won the Tour since Eno in '85, and they refuse to give them an answer. Day by day is what they're taking it. Here's the 2 French riders mixing it now with the stars of the other nations of Spain and Italy. Now, in the background there, we can see that Bardet is coming up. This man has caught the 2 leaders, the yellow jersey now. And now I think Koenig has seen the yellow jersey, and he thought, no. And TJ Van Garderen has now joined Bardet on the move.
Well, he's dragged himself back to the attack of Romain Bardet, but also coming back is Jürgen van der Broek with his jersey open there, the leader of Team Lotto. Lots of excitement. Jean-Christophe Perrault was also in that group, the former Olympic silver medalist in the mountain bike. Amazing to think at such a late age in life he moved across to road racing, and he's well up inside of the top 10. Started the day in 7th place.
There has never been a Tour de France quite like this one for a long, long time. So many riders now believe they can win this Tour. Pinot saying, look, don't just sit there, come and help me chase the one up front. And Valverde, I think, said, I can't. Now Bardet and TJ are together, and Perrault is coming up as well. So this group, I think, is going to come back.
Well, also in there, doing a great ride in the red, white and blue jersey, Frank Schleck is also riding himself a little bit higher up in the overall standings here this afternoon. Vincenzo Nibali, though, Phil, at the front of the race, has no teammates alongside him, and when you have no teammates in this part of a race, you've got to assume control. That's exactly what he is doing. And I'm not surprised, though, that Thibaut Pinot is young, and this is the moment that he's showing a little bit of his youthful frustration. But, you know, when a guy like Valverde doesn't come by at a place like this, I'll tell you why he's not going by, because he can't.
Yeah, I think he's on his limit right now. So 24 seconds, the group Valverde is behind the 3 leaders of Majka, Nibali and Koenig. And these are now riding for 4th and 5th place on the road, and that big group has regrouped. 10 riders in that chase group now, as we see them back to, we see the 4 chasers here. 3 very strong men. They are at 5 kilometers to go now. This is the race for the win on the day. And you know, if Nibali were to win, not only would he increase his lead, but he'd also take the lead in the King of the Mountains. 5 kilometers to go, 3 leaders have gone through, Majka, Nibali, Koenig. This is a reaction. Valverde, who moments ago told Thibaut Pinot he couldn't do it, has jumped him.
Well, I think he saw the back end of the motorbike there and saw it as an opportunity there to try and open up a little bit of a gap with the slipstream, but he could not pop Pinot there, and it's these 2 riders back together. Pinot, 24 years of age, he's really got to do what he can. That's a little bit of a replay there. And now Pinot is back with number 11, Alejandro Valverde. But Phil, they're still looking at 25 to 30 seconds to nail back the yellow jersey group. Well, Pinot on the front there in the dark blue jersey. He's riding into a spot of maturity here this afternoon. Phil, this is his 3rd participation in the Tour de France at just 24 years of age. I think he's a great star of the future, and it's so good after such a long time of the French not having much chance to rival the top end of the leaderboard, to have all these youngsters coming up. And I tell you, one man who is very proud of the French performances is, of course, Bernard Hinault, the last man to win the Tour de France. He won it on 5 occasions.
Under the 2 kilometer banner for Thibaut Pinot in the blue and Alejandro Valverde in the best. It's time to remember that the last time that Vincenzo Nibali rode in the Tour de France was 2012. He finished 3rd behind the 2 British riders from Sky, Sir Bradley Wiggins and Chris Froome. Wiggins not selected by his team this time around, and Chris Froome out on day 5. Logical result then,
I suppose. Logical, but the way he's done it is with panache so far. He came out, I mean, Phil, a leader, a man who's trying to win the Tour de France doesn't come out on stage 2 and try and grab the stranglehold of a race, but that's exactly what Vincenzo Nibali did when he won the stage down into Sheffield. A brave move which paid off.
This is TJ Van Garderen with the youngster from France, fighting to keep that white jersey, because the rider in front of him, the blue jersey of Thibaut Pinot, might be taking it off his shoulders tonight.
Well, the race situation currently, we look at the man in the yellow jersey extending his advantage over everybody else in this race. Leopold Koenig is just behind him. They're not too far. We just caught a quick glimpse of 2nd and 3rd place riders on the fold, Majka and Koenig, but I don't think they're going to get themselves back to the yellow jersey this afternoon. A little bit further down the road is Frank Schleck and Jean-Christophe Perrault. This man, though, is, as they say in French, impérial.
Well, at the moment, Pinot is not going to get that white jersey away from the other Frenchman. They're 20 seconds apart on the road, and the other Frenchman's got a 41-second advantage. There he is, his tongue out as he sits on the back of a man that won that white jersey once in the Tour de France, TJ Van Garderen. Laurens ten Dam has done a ride today. I thought he was beginning to crack a couple of days ago, but there he is with those 3. This man not telling us anything with his face as they come up. The 2 are at him, but we are 1 kilometer to go, and the Maillot Jaune of the Tour de France, who has won twice already, is going to increase his lead here. He's now looking for 900 meters. Can those 2 behind revive?
Well, they're coming very, very quickly. They're being led out there by the man in the dark blue jersey, Leopold Koning. If you remember, he won a fantastic stage last year up to the summit of Mount Diablo in the Amgen Tour of California. He knows how to go very quickly over the final few hundred meters. So these two riders are looking at 4th and 5th place on the road. Thibaut Pinot, the youngster from France.
There's Zubeldia in the black jersey, done another good ride, the aging Spanish rider, while Frank Schlecker's come to the back with 161. Under 1 kilometre to go now for the next small group of riders. Here they are, Valverde and Pinot. Nowhere in sight up the front though. These two are racing now to finish on the places if they can.
53 seconds is their deficit on the yellow jersey of Vincenzo Nibali. They're in 4th and 5th on the road. This man is learning the trade at 24 years of age. This man knows all about it. He's 34 years of age and he's had a very successful year so far, but this man is cruising all over the Tour de France this afternoon.
600 meters to the top of the climb here on a beautiful sunny day in the Alps, and it's reflecting that sunshine is the maillot jaune of the Tour de France. Vincenzo Nibali is not leaving very much the imagination anymore as he dances towards the finish. Up goes the zip, ready for the two-arm salute. It's been a brilliant day out for Vincenzo Nibali. He increases his lead in the Tour de France tonight.
Seems quite interminable, these last few hundred meters for this man, but here it goes.
There it goes. Vincenzo Nibali conquers the Tour de France for a 3rd time, and the yellow jersey is even safer on his shoulders now. Majka comes over in 2nd, Koenig in 3rd. A great result for the NetApp Endura rider, and justifies the selection of that team as a wild card into the Tour de France. Thibaut Pinot, as he comes up to the line, they're all losing time, but Valverde should be okay for 2nd overall tonight. He's going to attack Thibaut Pinot, having followed him up the mountain, and the Frenchman should have been ready for that move. He'll even lose a 2nd.
Well, just waiting for the clock to stop, but you know, Alejandro Valverde is a great finisher up at the top of this climb. He's got himself to the top and he's racing for seconds here this afternoon as he stops it on the line. That's 48 seconds. But the man who started the day in 2nd place overall, Richie Porte, he is going to tumble down the standings. Valverde will be 2nd tonight, and TJ Van Garderen will also climb up in the standings at the end of today's stage.
And will the white jersey stay on the shoulder of this plucky little young man here, Romain Bardet? He's got 10 seconds to get to that line. As Bardet comes up now, Pinot was trying to take best young rider. Good finish by TJ Van Garderen. In the backdrop is Laurens ten Dam. And he will just keep his white jersey, Paul, but I think we're talking 5 seconds.
Very, very close. And let's not forget, Phil, if you just turn a page in the book and look at the profile tomorrow as Laurens ten Dam stops the clock as well, a minute 34 back. That's a great ride by him. He'll also move up quite high in the standings tonight. This is the next dupe on the road. That's Van Garderen, followed by just in there is Perrault, Willemer, and Jürgen van den Broek, sorry.
Yeah, Van den Broek coming up to line. Zubeldia on the far right. He's revitalised himself, the aging Spanish rider there. As they sprint for the line, Jean-Christophe Perrault and Frank Schleck in the mix on the far left, gritting his teeth. It's good to see Frank back.
And Aimar Zubeldia on the right-hand side in the dark jersey.
And hits the line. That was a win for what it's worth for Perrault. They all get the same time, those riders. This is Pierre Rolland. He looked very, very good when his team put him in the right place with Rui Costa.
And Chris Horner. Chris Horner has done a great job. It's like Mick Rogers coming up to the line there in the fluorescent of Tinkoff Saxo. Watch out for him tomorrow. Horner is just on the back there in the pink sleeves there, and he has actually stayed with his teammate along the rest of this climb. Rui Costa, the champion of the world, there in 2nd position behind Pierre Rolland.
Well, the clock continues to count, and I'm afraid it is counting out Richie Porte on a day we thought the climb suited him. We thought he would be able to go with these riders. In fact, he was tailed off We haven't got a time check on him, but the clock is saying already 3 minutes as Pierre Rolland crosses the line with the world champion Rui Costa. Michael Rogers, the Australian, 3:07. And then Chris Horner comes over about 3:10. And now a big gap. That's where we are, commentating from today. And the riders looking now as though we have really opened up again the situation in the Tour de France.
So as we have a quick look at the provisional standings, till the official ones come through, Nibali leads by 3:37. Romain Bardet at third at 4:24. Pinot just tickling him there in fourth place. TJ Van Garderen climbs up into fifth. Jean-Christophe Perrault in sixth. Bauke Mollema in seventh. Jürgen van der Broek into eighth. Leopold Koenig climbs right up into the top 10 in ninth place. So too does Laurens ten Dam.
Stage 14, and it is a big one through the mountains. It starts in Grenoble and makes its way through to Risoul, and it takes in some of the most historic climbs in the history of the sport. The first one is the Col de Lauteret, the second one, the highest point of this year's race, over the Col d'Izoard, which takes them to 2,360 metres above sea level. The stage, 177 kilometres. Well, they're in Grenoble, which is hosting a stage start of the Tour de France today for the 38th time. The last time was 2011, when it was the start and the finish of the individual time trial. Tony Martin was the winner of that stage, and Cadel Evans finished in second position, just 4 seconds behind the powerful German. But it was enough for Evans to take the yellow jersey into Paris the following day. Joaquim Rodriguez, he wears the polka dot jersey today, despite the fact that he's in second position in that classification, as Vincenzo Nibali, obviously, as the overall race leader. The yellow jersey takes priority. 137 riders making it to the start line today of the 198 that kicked the race off what seems like a long time ago on Saturday, the 5th of July in Leeds. Peter Sagan in the green, along with Vincenzo Nibali. They've got a good relationship, these two. Not too often they're direct rivals per se, and they're former teammates. They get along with each other quite well. Grenoble, the capital of the French Alps. Its history dates back some 2,000 years. And Vincenzo Nibali is trying to create a little bit of his own history in this year's Tour de France, joining that select group of riders that have won all 3 Grand Tours. The Giro d'Italia, the Tour de France, and the Volta a España. The final 10-second countdown. Stage 14 rolls out from Grenoble. They've got roughly 15 minutes through the neutral zone before they hit kilometre 0. Then the white flag will come out from the lead car. And once that goes back in, it will be all on with the racing. A difficult start to the stage as well. It's pretty much uphill right from the very start.
Jens Voigt riding his last Tour de France. He really is an incredible character, and he's really struggling. Probably look at that little sign on his bike that says "Shut up, legs," because I'm sure they're screaming right now.
Well, they are, but I think he's riding pretty well to be up with Simon Clark just in front of him. This is the peloton, as they all try to keep Leopold Koenig in touch with those leaders. 2:53 when they went over the top of the Col du Lauteret. It was 5 minutes 5 seconds.
Just over on the left-hand side in that dark blue jersey, FDJ, that's Bruno Thibault. He really is turning out to be quite a star. He had a great introduction to the Tour de France 2 years ago. Last year was a disaster for him. He was actually losing contact with the race going downhill. This year he seems to be back to that condition and confidence that he had 2 years ago. And he's currently sitting in 4th place overall. And very often on his shoulder was the man who was well up yesterday, TJ Van Garderen.
Riblon just trying to hold on to the coattails here. He needs about 3 kilometres to the top. The pace being set, there's a nice view for you. When it switchbacks like that, it climbs on the steepest section of the Izoard. And as they're going up towards the summit, Rodriguez would like the first prize. He also take the lead in the King of the Mountains, but I think everybody might like the first prize. An additional €5,000 for the first rider to the top here.
Yes, and that's why they probably won't allow Joaquim Rodriguez the ease of getting himself maximum points. That is a big prize of around about $7,500 over the top of the climb, the Souvenir Henri Desgranges, and it's just on this stage to celebrate the high spot of the Tour. And of course, once we get down to the Pyrenees, there's the Souvenir Jacques Godet, which is at the top of the Col de Tourmalet, and that is the same. And that's on the 18th stage. Vincenzo Nibali, not showing any emotion at all, just concentrating on the job in hand. He knows that the challenges will come probably from the rest of his challenges on the final climb of the day, but he has to be attentive at a moment like this. 1:38, slipping back at Jürgen Roland. Nelson Oliveira, the Portuguese national champion, he too now starting to feel the pressure of this very, very nasty ascent. You see the damage is really being done here on the slopes of this climb. 164, it's a Mirkel Irizar. 39 slipping away. The rider from Tinkoff Saxo, that's Matteo Tossato. Gregory Rast, 165 in the black jersey, their big strong former Swiss national champion. There you can just about see the top of the climb in the distance. So we're going to pop right over the top and then start the long rapid descent down into the small town of Guiest, and that's where the last climb of the day will start on the way up to Risoul. We drop down for, again, around about 30 kilometers, so a very long descent down into the valley, not too far away from Gap, as again, it's Geraint Thomas who decides he wants to sacrifice himself for his teammate. Well, slipping back, Raim Tarameh, he too now has paid the price of being in this early breakaway. A rider who a couple of years ago was diagnosed with mononucleosis, and he's suffered to get himself back to some consistent form as we now look at Ladagnou, arrière du peloton, the back end of the race. And Roach also now starting to pay, and that's a bit of a surprise because Nicolas Roach I thought would have been looking for a stage victory here this afternoon. And this is all because of the tempo that is repeatedly done by Team Sky on the front of this group. That's Rafael Maker in third position in the fluorescent. Behind him, or in front of him, sorry, it's Jose Serpa. And David Lopez, he's slipping off the back end of this group. So Team Sky are crumbling in the main field after the performance yesterday.
Any thoughts we had of Roach taking the stage? I think they're gone now, Paul, and this is Ede also dropping from that leading group.
Well, we're getting up into the rarefied air now. We're climbing up to close to 2,000 meters, or about 6,500 feet. So we top out at 7,700 feet today. Just a fraction inside of 8,000. The air gets quite rarefied at this altitude. I have to say, Geraint Thomas here, the man from Wales and from Team Sky, is doing a phenomenal job. But for him, I think in the back of his mind, he's thinking, my teammate here, Michael Nieve, can take over. He's ridden well in these mountains in the recent Criterium du Dauphiné, and they're thinking about holding on to some of their advantage, and they're keeping it at 3 minutes, which is pretty phenomenal.
It is, but you know, this peloton is tired because there's a big group of riders down there, which would not normally be the case. Johan van Summeren has now been dropped from the peloton, the man that once won Paris-Roubaix, and that was a great victory for him, one of the only a couple of victories he's ever had. He also won the Tour of Poland. But look at this now, tired legs moving up the group. I can see Peter Sagan is still in touch with this main peloton. I don't think they have got the strength today in this peloton.
I just saw big Adam Hansen slipping off the back of the group, a man who's counted on very often for Lotto Belisol. That just gives you an idea of how much elimination is being done from the back of this group. Staying in contact with the group are the guys who are trying to stay alongside their team leaders for as long as possible, because we will still have another big showdown with the overall contenders on the slopes of the final climb of the day. But the big question mark is 3 minutes over the top of the climb enough to go down to the final climb of the day?
Well, they've had the 5 minutes over the Loterre. They've only lost 2 on this climb of
sorry.
As we're watching here, the back of the peloton. Now it's Peter Sagan's turn. He's done very well to hold on, because they're only a few kilometers, 2 or 3 kilometers from the top of the climb here. And that's another excellent display by Peter Sagan. He doesn't look too pressured either.
Well, he's riding sensibly. He saw this breakaway, got into the break. People might have said, well, why is Peter Sagan getting into the breakaway in the mountains? Well, there's one of the reasons. He started the climb with this group and he can slowly slip back. And he's actually, if you like, he's using a little bit less energy than if he actually gets dropped from fatigue. So he will ride through today's stage and look forward to tomorrow.
Inside 2 kilometers for the breakaway to climb now, and that polka dot jersey of number 21, Joaquim Rodriguez, if he wins over the top, then it's his, because on the moment it's on loan from Vincenzo Nibali, but he'd be the new leader. Look at the crowd here on the lacets, the corners of the Col d'Izoard here.
As you can see, Phil, again, very much like the Mont Ventoux down towards Provence, the top of this climb has been deforested over many years from the timber that's been taken away from the top of these climbs for construction. And once we get over the top, it's a very rapid, again, 30-kilometer descent down into the next village, Guillestre, for the start of the final climb of the day. And I'm going to say one thing. I don't think they will allow Joaquim Rodriguez to get himself the points over the top of this climb, because there's a $7,500 prize for the first rider to cap this peak.
Which, if they can, any one of those leaders who've got the strength would go for that sort of money and wouldn't worry about the points. Those people have got 5 kilometers left to ride. More importantly, Geraint Thomas has driven this breakaway all the way up the Col d'Izoard, but not far to go. His teammate Mikel Nieve has offered him a drink. He took it gratefully. Jose Serpa is just behind in the pink, and again Kwiatkowski is struggling on the climb. He's just been unhitched with the American second oldest man in the race, Chris Horner, and so they're struggling as they come to the summit. They might survive with a chance to get on the descent.
They'll have to make some serious risks on the descent. Tony Martin alongside him there. Let's not forget, though, Phil Kwiatkowski was very aggressive in the first part of this race. He used a lot of energy over the flat stages, and I think now at 24 years of age, he's still got a lot to learn about himself. Now this is Maker moving to the front, Nieve in second position. Right behind him it's Jose Serpa, but right in the wings there, the man with the polka dot jersey on his shoulders is looking for big points at the top of this climb. 25 points for the first rider to top this climb, 20, 16 and 14. But throw into the mix $7,500, 5,000 euros for the first man to cap this peak.
The flag of the USA as they continue the climb now, and there a quick move by Joaquim Rodriguez. He's moved up on the left side, but it's actually a move that's come from Maker, the Polish rider, and there he is now. But Rodriguez isn't so much interested in the money as he wants maximum points. He's in third place here behind Geraint Thomas, and as they try to come up towards the top, he needs to get these points. There's 10 available at the top, and that will give him a lead over of 3 points over the yellow jersey. Now it is the Polish superstar here who's really built his reputation in this Tour de France in the yellow in Tinkoff Saxo. He's moved over, and now it is Joaquim Rodriguez, the jersey which is on loan from Vincenzo Nibali. When he tops this in first place, will be his tonight at the finish.
Well, that's what he wants. He's inside of the barriers now as he tops it there. 25 points in the bag for him. And as you said, between $6,800 and $7,500, depending on where you get your exchange rate. Col d'Izoard, Haute Alpes. And that's what these riders are climbing right into here this afternoon.
Well, I'll tell you what, the way Rafael Maker has ridden these last 2 days, if this breakaway has any chance when they get to the bottom of the final climb of the day, I think I'll be looking at that man to try and to take out the stage today. We're going further down the mountain now. The leaders are over the top. They'll be beginning now to speed to the basement through Avieux and on to Guillestre. And it's in Guillestre where we start the climb up to the finishing line in Rissoul.
Well, there is going to be another challenge once we come to this final climb of the day to the supremacy of Vincenzo Nibali here, Phil, because you can see all these young Frenchmen are starting to queue up. In the white jersey is the man who is in third place overall, Bardet, and in the blue jersey alongside him is Pinot, and in the black and red jersey of Team BMC Racing is TJ Van Garderen, who starts the day in 5th place overall, and he too, I think, will be looking to improve on his position later.
Well, Richie Porte seems to have recovered his composure. He's up in this group at the moment, and so too is the world champion, Rui Costa, who certainly has recovered from sickness. He was reported to be suffering a little bit from the bronchitis virus, but he now seems to be recovering himself, and he's in here in that white jersey. in the middle of our picture now. They're coming up to the top. The clock is counting. Remember, they were 5 minutes and 5 seconds behind when they came over the Lauterre. They're now coming up towards the top of the climb itself. This is Mikel Chirel, who's now decided to ease back off the peloton. He should get back on. There's the summit just ahead.
Yes, he's got about 30 kilometres downhill once he crests this climb, the Col d'Izoard. That's Thibaut Pinot just over on the right-hand side there in that dark blue jersey. Looks pretty comfortable. He looks as if he's biding his time, waiting for the final climb of the day.
But the work being done by Jakob Fuglsang there, right in the middle of our picture, the man that had that terrible crash yesterday, he's bandaged up all down his left side. He says he's hurting all over, and he would see how the day went. Well, that's why Nibali was so delighted he took the start this morning. He's working for him right now towards the top of the Col d'Izoard.
Well, just leading them over, a little bit of a show of defiance there in that dark blue jersey. This is Thibaut Pinot, the young Frenchman who is on his way to the top of the sport. And after finishing in 10th place overall a couple of years ago, he had a difficult year last year, but now he's climbing right back up to the top.
These are the pictures, go back into the 60s and 70s of the riders toiling up the Col d'Izoard. When we've seen them, it looks as though they're on the moon through that treeless landscape. 2:54, 2:56 as they come over the top. So they just about halved their deficit.
So 2 minutes and 55 they're giving us the time as they go over the top of the climb. And now they start the descent. So having a quick look back there, this is the group of the yellow jersey. That's Thibaut Pinot. There in 5th position is Vincenzo Nibali. It's quite a tricky descent as well, this descent of the Col d'Izoard, quite technical, and no safety barriers to report on the way down. Thibaut Pinot is not too concerned at all. There's a 30 kilometre downhill is going to take them pretty close to half an hour. The amazing thing about these long descents in the Alps, Phil, is in fact at the end of the descent, your arms start to ache quite a bit just because you've been using the front end of the bike to get yourself around these corners and to accelerate out of them. Well, just a quick look there. The peloton actually went up that climb 30 seconds slower than the leading group, and that was all pretty much due to the acceleration of the work being done by Geraint Thomas. Everyone waiting for the final part of the day, this final ascent up to the summit of this very difficult climb, which has never been ridden up in the Tour de France, but it's been used in the Tour de l'Avenir and it's been used in the Criterium du Dauphiné. It's a climb of 12.6 kilometers.
Here we go, not for the dizzy, not for the nervous, Paul. We're going to hit speeds here of what, 45, 55 miles an hour?
Well, I would expect them to be touching in the straightaways. They'll get up to about 60 miles an hour. In the corners, they'll slow down to around about 40. And that's what makes these technical descents quite difficult, because you've got that change of speed and the accelerations of coming out of the corners. This is the leader, though. Well, he is now the leader of the King of the Mountains competition. Joaquim Rodriguez, with those maximum points there, has got 88 points total to Vincenzo Nibali's 70. And I think he's pretty happy, and he'll be starting to nurture thoughts here, Phil, of the possibility of a victory.
Well, they're really pushing on here. This is the yellow jersey trying to catch up with them here, and he's realizing there has to be an attack. This is another way of going away from the peloton. Take risks on these very, very sharp full circles, and the yellow jersey has realized he can't afford to do anything but go forward, and he's going clear. Now, the other riders are going to have to come after him.
Well, they certainly will, and you know, every chance is a possibility to go out on the attack. And these riders, they thought about the possibility going uphill, but now they've taken the opportunity of a very technical downhill part of the course. They're taking risks here.
This is
now,
planned. This is planned by Bardet.
Certainly is, and let's not forget, this kid is, and he is still a kid, Phil, at 23 years of age. And look at the speed there, 90 kilometers an hour. Well, that's 55 miles an hour downhill. And here we are at the Tête de la Course, which is the head of the race.
And that's Nicolas Ede, who's trying to come back. He was dropped on the way up, and he's about to contact the leading group again here. Well, they're all over the situation at the moment. This is, in fact, Joaquim Rodriguez. He's pulled on a coat for the chilly descent. Keep that chest warm, stop the wind getting into it. 2:28 the gap, but this has been what we will definitely call a cheeky attack. This is the youngster in the white jersey for France, who's in a head-to-head battle with Pinot. And he's left Pinot behind on the way down the mountain. And I think because the yellow jersey Vincenzo shows so much respect for this youngster, he's had to go after it in himself.
Well, you've got to bear in mind that Romain Bardet is in third place in the overall standing. There you can see in that dark blue jersey, that's Thibaut Pinot. They have not waited for the final climb of the day. They've waited for the descent, and they're using this technical descent to try and prize a few seconds here and there. While back at the front end of the race, we've still got Joaquim Rodriguez there. He's got that dark raincoat over. That's to keep the cold out from this very high-speed descent, with speeds attaining on occasion 60 miles an hour.
Well, what a result it would be if Rodriguez was to stay away all the way to the summit. Still a long, long way here. They're really testing Thibaut Pinot and his newfound descending skills, because he's been known only as a nervous descender. And that youngster there in the white jersey, and here comes the race leader. He's scurrying after Bardet because he respects him too much.
And the man who crashed on the descent yesterday, Jakob Fuglsang, is the guy who is leading the yellow jersey down this descent. The man chasing there from Movistar, Alejandro Valverde. Now, where's Thibaut Pinot? There he is in the dark blue jersey. Now, the question is, where is TJ Van Garderen? A little bit further down the slopes. Now, these gaps that we're looking at, Phil, they get a little bit exaggerated on a descent, but they're not really very much than 20 or 30 seconds between the first place rider on the road and the 7th or 8th.
Well, we're looking at a dramatic attack here coming down the Col d'Ivoire behind the breakaway, but the attack came in fact from the man in white, who is Romain Bardet. It's caused a strong reaction from the yellow jersey Vincenzo Nibali, and it's left behind TJ Van Garderen and also Thibaut Pinot, and they're going to have to chase and get up here. The gap is opening up on the descent, not on the ascent of the Col d'Ivoire.
Well, these are risks that sometimes you have to take if you want to think about moving up in the overall standings. There is the group of the yellow jersey just a little bit further up the road, and that looks to me as if TJ Van Garderen, the red and black jersey, is coming forward. Thibaut Pinot in the dark blue jersey there of the FDJ, Française des Jeux. As we now, we've got 5 riders now who are leading the front end of the overall contenders. Let's not forget there's still 11 riders clear up the road at around about 2 minutes and 20 seconds. That's Nieve and Geraint Thomas, Jesus Herrada, Joaquim Rodriguez, Meika from Tinkoff Saxo, as we head now through the small town of Chalp. So Thibaut Pinot, he has the confidence, he's getting the good gear in, keeps getting down into a good aerodynamic position to push his average speed up to about 60 kilometers an hour, and looking to nail this all back together. And I think once we get to the slightly flatter part of the course, we'll see a general regrouping, but a little bit of interest coming from this move of the white jersey, Romain Bardet, obviously not at all scared of the descent here. Now into the town of Arvieux, 34 kilometers. This is one of the largest little villages on this side of the mountain pass of the Irzoar. I do think that this is just a temporary move off the front by Romain Bardet. We should see you can see TJ Van Garderen coming across the gap. This is John Gadret. It's not. Fuglsang. It's Perrault, in fact, over on the right-hand side. He's the mountain biker, Olympic silver medalist, and now we're looking at quite an interesting move. TJ Van Garderen, no, that's Peter Stettner looking back. So that is Peter Stettner who came across the gap there. Now he's looking back to see if he can find where his teammate is, TJ Van Garderen. Now I saw the black and red jersey from the helicopter there. So this is quite an interesting little move now, as the one man who seems to have been caught out in the crossfire is the American TJ Van Garderen.
The effort now being made by Bauke Mollema. They're forming at the front paw without TJ Van Garderen, which is rather interesting to see. The yellow jersey under pressure, but it's the man in white who's causing the problems, Bardet.
Yes, but TJ Van Garderen will have the assistance of a teammate quite shortly, because Peter Stettner had come across the gap, then realized his teammate wasn't there anymore. So the other American sat up, and he's waited for TJ Van Garderen on the descent to try and pace his teammate back into this race.
Well, no red jerseys of BMC at all in this group now. Thibaut Pinot has had to chase down. That was a real test of his newfound descending skills, but he's answered the call as they really continue this incredibly high-speed chase off the Col d'Izoard. And this is another stage of a very, very different Tour de France this year. Once they lost the two favourites with accidents, everybody's felt they're in with a chance.
And everybody's felt that every day there is an opportunity to move higher up in the overall standings. And they'll take any kind of terrain, whether it's uphill or down the hill, to try and get themselves back into this bike race.
Looking down at the 11 survivors of the breakaway of 17, going down towards the final climb of the day. And still up here in this group is the Welshman, Geraint Thomas, with his teammate from Sky, Mikel Nieve. It looks as though Alessandro Di Marchi, who was dropped towards the top of the climb, has got himself back into that leading group as well. This is the chase group at around about 2 minutes now. The white jersey of Romain Bardet with a teammate to help him. And this is the rider they're trying to get rid of, because they know he's a little bit suspect on the way down. And he's been unhitched again here.
Yeah, Thibaut Pinot has just lost a little bit going around the corners, and the scary thing is there's a few little drops appearing on the camera now. That could be an indication there's a little bit of moisture in the air this afternoon, but he should quickly get himself back onto the tail of that group. But I take my hat off to Jakob Fuglsang, the man who crashed on the descent yesterday.
Yeah.
He's got his nerves back today. He's pretty much strapped up after the accident of yesterday, but he's there up alongside his teammate to pace him down this hill.
And also there in that light-coloured jersey there is Maker, who is looking for a stage win today.
Yeah, Jean-Christophe Perrault is in that group. Now let's have a quick look here. Another little move coming there from Alejandro Valverde. 127, Thibaut Pinot is fourth in the... Well, I tell you what, this man, Jean-Christophe Perrault, is going for it today. He's sixth overall. He's a teammate of Romain Bardet, and they're doing anything they can on the downhill part of this course to see about turning the tables and change the look of the overall top 10 by tonight. And we're looking down at a very big battle. There's 27 kilometers to go. There's still around about 15 kilometers to go to the big town right in the bottom of this valley, the town of Guillestre, and that's where the final climb of the day will start. Back with the leaders. 11 riders leading this race. Mikel Nieve, Geraint Thomas is doing a phenomenal job of holding on to a good chunk of this advantage, but now for the first time it's come inside of the 2-minute margin, 1:45.
Well, through the gorges we go now as we're looking for the quaint little tiny town of Guillestre. Once we get there, it's all uphill to the finishing line. As we look down here, this is a dramatic chase now across the valley.
Yes, and it is a very dramatic valley as well now as we continue to charge down the Queyras combe, the combe of Queyras. The combe is nicknamed after the little climb just a little bit further up the road, and it used to be the Maison du Roi. So now this is the second group on the road. Valverde is in this group. Nicolas Rocher, who has been left behind by the leading group, has been picked up. Bauke Mollema, Jean-Christophe Perrault, Bardet, Thibaut Pinot, and it says TJ Van Garderen. And I'm just looking and I can't see TJ Van Garderen in this group. So this is Perrault on the front, Romain Bardet. They realise this is an important moment. They've got this long downhill. They've got another about 15 kilometres before they start the final climb of the day, and they want to take advantage of this part of the course to try and chase up to that leading group of 11 riders. So the 11 riders have a 1 minute 46 seconds advantage over the chasing group of the yellow jersey, and the yellow jersey has been put under a bit of difficulty this afternoon by a challenge coming from Romain Bardet and Jean-Christophe Perrault of AG2R.
Towards Guillestre, the second abandon of the day. Dries Deverens has gone out. We saw him dropped on the climb of the Col d'Izoard. So the field down now to 171 riders from the original 198. Now, this is the coming together of TJ Van Garderen's red jersey group. His teammates have done well. They've stayed with him up the climb, and they've dragged him back into this race as we cross to the final climb of the day. Quite a big peloton coming together too.
Now, Jean-Christophe Perrault, who starts the day in 6th place overall, has left an awful lot of energy in that move there. He was trying to move his own teammate Romain Bardet away from Thibaut Pinot, but at the end of the day he will have used a lot of energy before we start this final climb of the day. I think TJ Van Garderen can relax a little bit now, but not for too long, because we're only about 11 kilometres or 6 miles away from the final climb of the day.
Not surprising, hands are going up. They all want drinks after that chase down the Col d'Izoard. But two teammates still survive around the race leader Vincenzo Nibali, including the amazing Jakob Fuglsang. A minute 31 the gap. They are still hanging on in that front. There are 11 of them back together again, and all repaired at the back. All the leaders of the Tour are back together in the chase as we're heading now for the little village of Guillestre, and that's where the climb up to the finishing line starts. It's a climb these riders know from other bike races, but they've never taken the Tour de France to this ski station.
No, this climb was actually used in the 2010 Tour de l'Avenir. Just look at the climbs around this part of the world. It really is quite majestic. In fact, when the Tour de l'Avenir, Phil, came here in 2010, Nairo Quintana, who's not riding the Tour de France this year, in fact won 2 stages up to the top here. One was in the road race. He came back the next day and won the time trial as well.
He'll be back. A lot of you are asking where is Nairo Quintana, because he was the runner-up in last year's Tour de France. Fact was, he won the Tour of Italy and didn't intend to take part in the Tour this year. He will be back in action in the Tour of Spain in September. Minute 25. They're not getting any closer again now. These boys are holding their own.
So let's have a quick resume of exactly what's going on in the race there. We are looking at 11 leaders. Well, they're a little bit further on. You can see that little gaggle of cars just right in the middle of the screen. Those are the 11 leaders who have a 1 minute and 25 second advantage over a group containing the yellow jersey and nearly all of the riders in the top 10 in the overall standings, including Vincenzo Nibali, Alejandro Valverde, TJ Van Garderen and Rui Costa, the world champion, and of course Leopold Koenig, the rider from the Czech Republic, who is in 10th place overall. And they're hoping to survive to the bottom of the final climb of the day, which is looming in around about 5 kilometers.
Well, this could be an end of a perfect day for the Spanish rider Joaquim Rodriguez. He's won all of the climbs out on the course. If he can win the last one, it means he'll have won the stage as well. A little bit of work to be done yet, though.
Yes, obviously Geraint Thomas of Team Sky is sacrificing himself for his teammate Mikel Nieve, but you've got to wonder how much of an advantage do they need to get to at the bottom of this final climb of the day, because the gradient is very constant throughout the whole of the final climb of the day at around about 8%. It's a 35-minute effort from the bottom of the climb up to the summit and the finish, but I think we'll see again another showdown between the men in the top 10 in the overall standings. We've seen the youngster Romain Bardet quite happy to go out on the attack on the descent, and it's his team AG2R Le Mondial who are all over the front of this yellow jersey group. That makes me think that the young Frenchman at 23 years of age, he wants a stage victory out of this today.
And it's also showing just how strong AG2 are this year, with 4 teammates plus Bardet in that group. and they're leading the team race, and they're going to push on and be leading it by even more by tonight. Now the big question, I'm sure the riders are frightened to death, but is Vincenzo Nibali going to show us his strength again? He's won 3 stages already on hilly roads. Even the stage he won in Sheffield, he had to conquer Jenkin Road in Sheffield, which was a really hard climb. That was his springboard to his long life in the yellow jersey this year.
Well, not much further to go till they get down into the valley. It's a quick traversée of the valley floor, and then it's up the other side. There's Giulietta, just as you can see. That is the town that we will cross, and then we will begin the climb in earnest. We're about if we get towards the start of the climb, I'm pretty sure we'll see a real turning up of the gas coming from AG2R. And as you've said, Phil, they are fantastic this year. I'll
tell you what, Paul, if Nibali was to do what he did yesterday and win the stage, he would go 2 points ahead of the man who thinks he's got the race lead back in the King of the Mountains if he didn't finish in the first 6 on the stage. 15 kilometres to go for the peloton, 1 minute 6 the gap. It is this incredibly revitalised team of AG2R Le Mondial, all for one here. The man in the white jersey is their protected young man as the best young rider on the tour, and he's determined to give the French a podium in Paris, as we're now in this beautiful town here in the Alps of Giulietta.
The amazing thing, Phil, is about these youngsters from France that they don't know at 23 and 24 years of age how good they can be.
Well, this is Serpa, is it?
Yeah, Jose Serpa. He is an exceptionally good climber. As we said, we'd seen him win the Tour de Langkawi in Malaysia a number of years ago.
We are at 10 kilometres to go. The break is under pressure, but pulling away from the chase. 52 seconds. That is Nicolas Ede just ahead there. As we go up to we're at the front runners now with Serpa, as they're out inside now, 10 kilometres to go. And De Marchi, I don't think he was expecting to be joined by Serpa, but he's going to have to handle him.
He's got to hang on to him. The big advantage they've got on a climb like this, Phil, is it's a fairly steady gradient all the way to the top.
He's going to attack him. We've cut away, but I'm sure he attacked him there.
That was a little accident, it was, but he was quickly covered there by Jose Serpa in that dark blue jersey with the pink sleeves of Team Lampre. These two guys now know not too far behind, Phil. They will, I feel they need to work together, but the yellow jersey group is only at 46 seconds, which is around about 750 metres.
Yeah, that wasn't really attack. It was to see where everybody else was. Tanel Kanga, it's now also being dropped away here. 10 kilometres is the marker point. He's coming off the peloton, where he's been a right-hand man for Nibali. And Nibali will have to go, but look at this now, because this is another move as the riders continue to split up. That is Mejka who's making a move there. And we're now looking at the break here. This time is an attack, though. De Marchi is having none of this. He's gone with 9.4 kilometres to climb to the finish. This boy has tried 3 times to win a stage of the Tour de France. He's failed every time. He's ridden very sensibly today. This one he wants.
Well, he does, but he's still got about 25 minutes of effort to get himself to the top of this climb. You can see by the pedaling style here, this is very, very urgent. He must now know that the reactions are coming quite violently behind. This is Mejka in the second position on the road. He's caught and passed Jose Serpa, so this is going to be a phenomenal battle, and we've still got a lot of climbing before we actually get up to the ski resort.
Well, Mejka has come so good in this Tour de France, and he's looking very, very strong indeed. He was second behind Nibali yesterday, losing the stage by just 10 seconds. Galopin also gone as well now. So Mejka is very, very recovered extremely well from his huge effort yesterday. Now that's the very select chase group here now, as this is Geraint Thomas's day is done now. These are the men up front, and look at this now. Mejka is coming right up behind De Marchi.
Well, this is a look over your shoulder there, then all of a sudden you know you're about to get reinforcements from the back end of the race.
He's actually tapped him and he said, "Get on my wheel, come with me," which is exactly what De Marchi has done.
Now, that was a man, by the way, Fuglsang, job done for the day. Not surprising, Phil. Let's not forget this guy's body must be in absolute agony. He's bandaged up on both arms and his leg.
What a great job he's done today. He's perfect.
Phenomenal job on the descent to pull back the breakaway of the man in that white jersey there. And, of course, is Romain Bardet.
The return of Rodriguez, the virtual king of the mountains, as he comes up to those 2 leaders now. They're imploding all over the road, but 43 seconds is a good advantage at 8.8 kilometres to climb, especially if those 3 get together.
Well, that was the move of experience coming from Joachim Rodriguez. Geraint Thomas slipping away now, having done a phenomenal job here. There's Jürgen van der Broek. He's also in difficulty. This is the man who started the day in 8th place overall, but he can't follow the pressure of AG2R trying to set this up for Romain Bardet.
But if you look at the faces in this chase group, they are under absolute pressure here now, and there's big riders being dropped here. Jürgen van der Broek should not be getting dropped by that group, but further up the road now, Joachim Rodriguez trying to cross the gap to those two front runners. Desperate moments at 8.5 kilometers to go, and the overall spread now is down to 36 seconds, and it is still Majka who's trying to set the pace, and a shake of the head. I think Majka's going for gold on his own.
Well, he's seen this as an opportunity. He knows how quickly the group behind are coming up to him, so he wants to take this opportunity. He also knows that at 8 or 9 seconds behind him is Joachim Rodriguez, but 30 seconds, 36 seconds to be exact, to the yellow jersey group is really not very much. There's Pierre Rolland, number 151. A teammate still up alongside the overall leader of this race, Vincenzo Nibali. It's Michele Scarponi, a great climber, still hanging in the winds, just in case his team leader needs some help. Well, behind them is the yellow jersey group. You can just about see into the dark glasses there of Alejandro Valverde, locked onto the wheel of the yellow jersey, Vincenzo Nibali.
19 seconds to Rodriguez, 46 to Nibali, as we watch real mountain goats there, running across the top of the Alps here, above Risoul. And we've never had a tour as good as this for years. Everybody believes there's something in it for them now. And this man particularly, second yesterday in sensational style, just behind Nibali. He planned this move in the breakaway all day for Majka.
Well, it may well pay off this afternoon, because just looking at the faces of the riders in that yellow jersey group, Phil, everybody is, as they say in cycling jargon, on the rivet. That means they're sitting right on the front of their saddles, doing the maximum just to stay in contact with the wheel in front.
Well, the contacts are cracking up here, because this is Kruijswijk, and he was in the breakaway, Stefan Kruijswijk. Also dropped now from the front of the groups. They're just riding past those breakaway men as they continue to hunt. Well, look at these two here, first and second in the Tour de France, their face looking totally passive, and they're waiting to see just how close they get. There's still 6.5 kilometers to go.
Alejandro group there with Romain Bardet in second position. There you can see the other Frenchman right in the third position, wearing number 151 is Pierre Rolland. They're all here, everybody's waiting, but nobody can make the move.
There's been 4 outstanding French riders vying for their top general classification, and they're all there. This is the man, though, who's shocking the world here now, Majka. He's not unknown, but he is still very, very young, and I think on this day he's proved to us he's maturing fast. Hit 1 minute 10 now. They're not hunting him down because there's no yellow jersey for this man at the top, but it would be his first ever stage win in a Grand Tour. And now it is Pierre Rolland who attacks at the front. Everybody looks at each other, including Bardet, because he was pouring water over his head and there was no reaction. Now is he going to take up the chase?
Jean-Christophe Perrault is the next man to come across there in the yellow helmet. He's seen this as an opportunity. Pierre Rolland is quite a way down in the standings. He was 13th at the start of the day, but he's looking for a good 9 minutes to pull himself back into this race.
Well, Ben Gaspar has been doing such a great job for AG2R. That acceleration finished him off there, and he's dropped back. Pierre Rolland, a little wry smile on his face here. He's been caught by the teammate of the white jersey, Bardet. Bardet is yet to attack, and he promised us he would, and he hasn't done so yet. Rodriguez looking up now, knowing they're coming.
Well, just saw the little flick of the wrist there from Jean-Christophe Perrault, saying to Pierre Rolland, come on, come through, mate. And he said, no, because the group's coming back from behind. If I'm going to go clear on a climb like this, I want to go on my own. I don't want any passengers.
Just under 4 kilometers to go, and Rafał Majka is still in with a chance, more than in with a chance. He's steadily riding away from all of the action behind him. He started the climb with a 40-second advantage. He's now 70 seconds in front and looking in his first Tour de France to grab a stage win here. There's still efforts being made as riders are constantly picked up. Is Pierre Rolland going to go again? The answer is I think yes.
Yes, he's got the big gear in. He's got it on the large chainring. That's Arnaud Jonaison just behind him in the dark blue jersey. This is really throwing caution to the wind. The Spanish national champion coming forward now for their man Alejandro Valverde. That's Jon Izagirre.
Well, while all of the players are coming on stage, the lead actor is just watching and waiting. And as I speak, he goes. Nibali has made his move. At the moment, I thought he'd let them all just dice with him. 4 kilometres to go. It's a case of deja vu. Now, are we looking at stage win number 4? He's got a bridge 70 seconds to the leader.
Look at that acceleration. These guys all looked at each other to say, what was that going forward? But Jean-Christophe Perrault has decided that he can respond, and this is a very rare situation that Perrault has managed to come up to the wheel of Vincenzo Nibali. Now, Perrault has said at 37 years of age, while the rider in second position, his dream is a podium position in the Tour de France. He came to road cycling very late on in his career, having had a phenomenal mountain bike career before that.
Beneath the legs of the yellow jersey, the clock is melting in the Alpine sun. It was 70 seconds, it's now 60, it's now 59. He's left himself 3 kilometres to bridge a minute.
Well, you can see there is Joaquim Rodriguez slipping back here this afternoon. As you said earlier, Phil, as you did the maths very quickly, if Vincenzo Nibali goes on to win the stage here this afternoon, he will leapfrog over Joaquim Rodriguez again in the King of the Mountains competition.
What a Tour de France this is now. Vincenzo Nibali is showing us he's riding with the confidence of 10 men here, as the Italian's about as close as he'll get to his own country, across over the French frontier here. And a counter move by Valverde, also seeing Nibali go, has had to counter the move. Frank Schleck doesn't have the answer, and neither, I don't think, does Lan. TJ is going to see if he's got the answer. Left behind on the descent of the Iswad. He knows now it's this or never, and he's being marked quickly by Pinot.
5 seconds to the lone leader.
Paul, our cameramen are having to dodge all over the mountain. I've never known a Tour de France where every group is attacking each other. And it's 1.9 kilometres to go, and the gap is now 32 seconds, and the clock is plummeting. Oh, it's just gone up a second, the first time. As we get 2 kilometres to go, we're looking at the yellow jersey here. Christophe is still behind. They are saying on the race radio 35, but I don't believe them. Although on a mountain, it could be.
Well, it's just a question of Vincenzo Nibali needs to look up ahead of him, and I would think the gap is not very much more than 15 to 20 seconds, but it's a bigger gap back down to the group containing TJ Van Garderen. There they are, but that group now is down to just a few riders. Thibaut Pinot is there, and the white jersey, Romain Bardet.
And now it looks as though they've unshipped here Alejandro Valverde, and also there is Leopold Koenig. Also, he's come back actually to Valverde, but I think for the first time this tour, Valverde's actually cracked there, and it was that latest attack by TJ Van Garderen with the 2 top Frenchmen, and the surprising Frank Schleck, the champion of Luxembourg, makes that foursome there. 32 seconds, the clock says. We're looking for the leader. Our cameras are completely deployed against the leaders of the tour, just attacking each other. Laurens ten Dam left, Koenig, and then Valverde here.
Who would have expected this man to crack on a climb like this? Alejandro Valverde, Leopold Koenig moving forward there, number 201. He started the day in 10th place in the overall standing. Everybody's becoming an ally in this race now, because this is a race of survival. That's position. The man just coming into sight now, Laurens ten Dam. This is an amazing climb. They are throwing everything they can at this race this afternoon. They do know that it's a slightly easier stage tomorrow, but for the moment we're trying to race into this bike race, and this is Thibaut Pinot. Then it's followed by Romain Bardet there. TJ Van Garderen in second position is doing a phenomenal ride this afternoon.
Every second counts. Laurens ten Dam made an acceleration on the right. Valverde tried to follow. Can he follow? I'm not too sure he can. And ten Dam has sensed this. No, they can't follow. All these riders with one at the end of the number, the leaders of their teams, and the left are floundering on the climb. Well, everybody said, oh, it wasn't a hard climb up to Vesoul, but boy, it has provided us with the best racing so far in this Tour de France.
Well, looking for 1 kilometre to go. The lone leader there, Rafael Mecha, has got 30 seconds advantage still over the yellow jersey group, and they're coming up to the steepest part of this climb.
We're looking for 1 kilometre to go. We've just got 1 kilometre to go. Now can the man who was second yesterday converted into his first ever stage win in a Grand Tour and his first ever attempt at the Tour de France. Now this is Nibali here. He beat Maker yesterday. Now can he catch him again?
Well, he's going to try, but what he's also doing, Phil, is putting big time between himself and all of his other rivals inside of the top 10 in the overall standings tonight. Apart from Jean-Christophe Perrault, who's just hanging on there, thinking that he can get himself closer to what is his dream, and that, of course, is a podium position in Paris.
Well, Jean-Christophe Perrault could put 3 Frenchmen in the top 5 in the Tour de France if he keeps gaining. They are under 35 seconds is the gap at 1 kilometre to go. And they're saying 31 on the screen, but the race radio had a watch on that. They've told us 35 as they come up to the kilometre sign, so he's not going to catch Maker. The Polish wonder man, who is in his first Tour de France, is going to win the stage. And TJ is 17 seconds now back of the yellow jersey as these 3 go towards the summit as well.
Well, Phil, we're looking here actually at the future of cycling. 23, 24 and 25 years old, those 3 youngsters there as they went inside of the kilometre to go banner themselves.
And Valverde's had a horrible last 5 kilometres up this climb. He's being left, each of the riders moving around him here. This is the situation with Van den Broek also in trouble at the back.
Well, he's losing currently a good 4 minutes on the leader on the road and probably a good 3.5 minutes on the yellow jersey. But these guys now are really throwing it at each other. That's Pinot in the dark blue, TJ Van Garderen in the red and black, Romain Bardet in the white. Frank Schleck is really starting to find his form in the second part of the Tour de France this year.
And these 3 riders look at each other, and Nibali comes up towards another mountain-top finish here, but this time not as the winner, but he is gaining time over all of his rivals. This man here, Rafał Majka, his fans will not be surprised. They've been writing to me every day saying, watch him, watch him, watch him. Well, today he's done it. He gets his first ever Grand Tour stage win, and this in his first ever Tour de France. He won't care. He's more than an hour behind overall. Rafał Majka is still squeezing out every second. He must know that Nibali will chase him to the line. This is the moment for the man who won't be 25 till the month of September, the biggest win of his career. Rafał Majka wins his first stage in the Tour de France.
Now this is a race for second position on the stage today. Jean-Christophe Perrault is coming up there, and he's been assisted right the way up to the line by Vincenzo Nibali, who says, no mate, I'm going to have second place on the stage here this afternoon. But for Jean-Christophe Perrault, that drags him a little bit further up.
There'll even be a couple of seconds time gain over Jean-Christophe Perrault as a second place for Nibali today, but more importantly, another show of another display which puts more time against all of his rivals. And the 2 Frenchmen, separated by 16 seconds for that white jersey, come together and they're still attached. And still, it's a matter of honour for Pinot, and is he going to get it? Oh, I think he did. But he gained no time at all. TJ Van Garderen comes over the line as well. Frank Schleck just gets better and better, the champion of Luxembourg, as does Laurens ten Dam. He's becoming the leader of the Belkin team here because Bauke Mollema seems to be falling away.
Yes, ten Dam started the day in 12th. There's going to be some serious changes. Good ride by this man as well, Leopold Koenig, who comes up to the line next. There at Valverde. He's lost a big chunk of time on the yellow jersey this afternoon.
Yes, and Valverde is beginning to slip away. It's very, very close. He could have conceded second there to Romain Bardet, but I think he might just hang on to it at least for another day. But the big loser here, Jurgen van den Broek, the Belgian's favourite, he's dropped again and losing time, so he's slipping away. Started the day 8th. This is the man who's going to be the happiest man, well, apart from Nibali, of course, and this is Rafał Majka, the Polish youngster who has just got his first stage win in his first Tour de France.
3.5 minutes. Nibali, Alejandro Valverde, by my calculations, has just held on to his second place overall. Majka wins the stage, 24 seconds ahead of Nibali. Perrault is in third place, Pinot in fourth. Romain Bardet is in fifth place. TJ Van Garderen sixth at 54 seconds. Schleck did a good ride in seventh, and Alejandro Valverde in 10th. Valverde really had to try to keep himself up there, and Van Garderen stays in fifth place, but he's just a few seconds behind Pinot. Bardet consolidates his position and moves a little bit closer to Alejandro Valverde. One man who's going to disappear out of the top 10, though, tonight is this man, number 131, Jurgen van den Broek, nursed to the top of the climb by his teammate, Tony Galopin. And let's not forget the man in second position there are the two riders from Lotto. He's had a number of nasty accidents out on the road, as Rui Costa, the world champion, now comes into the finishing straight.
Yes, he put in a real... I thought he'd really recover, but it was a hill too far, and he's now lost a considerable amount of time, almost 5 minutes for the world champion. But that's not as much as Jurgen van den Broek, who comes up to the line as well.
Yes, Jurgen van den Broek is going to lose, well, as he comes up to the line. It's going to be about 4.5 minutes he will have lost on the yellow jersey. And here is Richie Porte, who again has lost a big chunk of time here this afternoon. It's going to be another 5 minutes in the bag for Richie Porte, so he will disappear even a little bit further down in the overall standings tonight.
He will, but he's lost interest now in the overall. He's going to conserve energy once he wasn't going so well today and wait to race another day. The Pyrenees might see a totally different Richie Porte down there, but the overall situation, Valverde in second, Bardet in third, and Pinot in fourth.
Stage 15, it looks relatively simple on paper. They start in Talar, make their way through to Nîmes. It's 222 kilometres. There are no categorised climbs. The one intermediate sprint towards the back end of the stage, and it drifts gently downhill for the majority of the day, but towards the end they get exposed to crosswinds, which could be dangerous.
There is actually an element of disarray. A lot of riders are up there from different teams, but the one team that's all up there together on the right, those blue jerseys of Astana. And I note now that Nibali has taken order in front of his lieutenant, Jakob Fuglsang. Fuglsang riding in terrible pain after that crash he had in the Alps 2 days ago.
Well, both arms and a leg have got serious bandages on them. There's a lot of movement in the front end of the main field, and you can see the tail starting to form at the back. Those are the guys who are scrambling, taking risks actually to try and get a little bit of shelter from the crosswind. Looking at the diagonal line of the front end of the main field, that gives you an indicator the wind is coming from the right-hand side of the riders. We're hammering along here, Phil, at 60 kilometres an hour. That's 42 miles an hour, and we haven't got to the nasty section yet.
As the riders go towards the storm, though, these two riders are out in front. 5 minutes and 30 seconds is the gap. It is continuing to come down, and Elmiger and Bauer sharing out the equality. They come together after this roundabout here.
Even from this height, you can spot the jersey of the Australian national champion. He's got the yellow sleeves on it. It sticks out very nicely from even altitudes like this. The dark clouds are hovering over this race, and all of a sudden now it's down to 5 minutes and 25 seconds. Now it's starting to turn into the right direction for the sprinters, who are slowly starting to eat into the advantage of their prey. Now into the small town of Coustelet. Number 84 is the department of France that we're going into here, and this village here, the little hamlet of Coustelet, was made famous by the writer Peter Mayle, one of the writers who wrote the book A Year in Provence. Amongst one of his other good books, he also wrote A Good Year. Well, the French wanted crowds to turn out. It is a Sunday. The weather is not the greatest in the southern part of France here this afternoon, but they have got good crowds enjoying the Tour de France coming into their region. The region now, as we start to go around the Vaucluse. Once we get into Cavaillon, that was the area we keep talking about, the little town we keep talking about. Cavaillon is where we enter into the Bouches-du-Rhône. and into the Département to finish off of the Garde. That main field now is stretching out into a very, very long line. That's an indication. Hammers down.
Well, look at the black skies we are going into. It's off on the right shoulder of the riders, but that's where we turn shortly. As the storms are really over the area of the Bouches-du-Rhône right now. Peloton are really fighting to hold the lead positions now. There's not a case of just ride at the front and set the pace. Riders at the back want to get to the front, and the long line is being stretched out here now. Omega Pharma, Quick-Step are beginning to drive. This is the situation at the back. Gone is the King of the Mountains leader just now, Joaquim Rodriguez.
Well, that's a bit of a shock, but it just goes to show if you're badly positioned, once the crosswind starts, you can't even stay on the wheel of the rider in front of you. And all of a sudden, just look at the diagonal line there for me. You can see the flags. They are rippling in the wind, which is coming from the right-hand shoulders. And that's a bit of a shocker there, because number 7, who is not in a very good position there, is Richie Porte.
No, it's not looking good at all for Rich. And the rider behind him there, Alessandro Di Marchi, for the last 2 days through the Alps, voted the most aggressive rider, both occasions, riding number 53. That's why he's got a red number. But today it's a case of hanging on in there. And normally, Paul, Di Marchi is a lead-out man for Peter Sagan. But 2 days of leading in the Alps, I think, has cost him. Richie Porte now grabbing at wheels here before that peloton runs away too far.
Well, Richie Porte mentioned in the medical communiques, by the way, of struggling with intestinal problems over the last couple of days, and that can happen to many riders once we go into the mountains, especially in the heat, because riders take on board plenty of fluid, sometimes too much.
Well, his team are saying they're taking his progress in the Tour de France day by day. So Richie Porte, if he has a bad day, will not continue. If he can get to the finish, he might recover on the rest day tomorrow. But look at the way these riders now are grabbing at straws. This is what the wind does, and they knew it was coming.
Well, everybody was expecting the wind to have a serious effect on the outcome of the race this afternoon, and this is real scrambling time. One by one, the cars are coming by. The first car to come by will be the neutral car, but in fact, the race referees control the number of cars that are allowed to come by, because they don't want riders like Richie Porte who's use the convoy of cars to be able to get themselves back into the peloton. That's Tony Martin on the right-hand side with the big elasticated bandage on his knee. Like many riders are sporting these, I think he must be suffering from a tendon problem.
Yeah, the race has become all of a sudden a battle for the general classification here. The yellow jersey up there, so too is 5th placed overall TJ Van Garderen, taking close guard. The peloton now timed at 4 minutes and 22 seconds. We can see where Porte is just now, about 20 seconds off the back of this race. Well, we're about to go into Cavaillon with the leaders, and then comes the slight change of direction, and if Richie doesn't get on board, he might find the wind will pick him off.
Well, he's maybe got a bit of a chance here, Phil, because when you see the peloton stretch across the road like that, that's an indication that the pressure is down just a little bit. .4:15 now, and just because of that little acceleration in the crosswinds, there was no major chase organised by a single team there. It was just the impetus of the peloton bringing up the pressure at the front end, and that's why we saw the gap drop from 5.5 to 4:13. And look at this, Richie Porte ducking and diving here a fraction. There's a motorbike going past there. Any port in a storm here at the moment. He's got a slight drag from that motorbike. Well, I think he's going to get back on. The race referee there is not very happy at all. They're shouting at the motorbike there to get out of the way. That's from the race organisation. He certainly thinks that Richie Porte took advantage of that. Not Porte's fault at all. The motorbike was the one that got in the way, and any professional bike rider would know that if an opportunity presents itself like that, well, thank you very much, I'll take it. Dammed up to produce a hydroelectric scheme. These are hard races, these flat stages. In fact, this will be a good day, I would think, for Omega Pharma Quick-Step. I just started there on the left-hand side. You can see the black and white jerseys, the black shoulders with the white band around the middle. That's Omega Pharma Quick-Step. That's a team of Mark Renshaw, and a number of people this morning were saying, well, watch out for Mark Renshaw, because he could very well be the dark horse for today's stage. And he knows how to ride in these conditions, and the team have looked after him very well. Now, this is rather interesting, because this is the team of BMC. BMC, They are not afraid of racing in conditions like this, and they've got some pretty good riders for the flatlands to look after TJ Van Garderen. And of course, one of the top men who may well be up there is Greg Van Avermaet.
6 kilometers an hour at the moment. These riders are screaming away from Cavaillon, and TJ Van Garderen has put all of his men on the front. Well, this is the only prize on the road today until we get to the finish. There were no mountains, so they can't even share this. Whoever gets it wins the 1,500 euros. As we now see Martin Elmiger, the champion of Switzerland, leading through the sprint here at La Galine. The interest will come, though, in the race for third place, and I'm quite sure that Peter Sagan will find a couple of challenges today, maybe a dress rehearsal in the rain for a sprint. Now, for a year ago, Peter Sagan won his green jersey with a total of 401 points. He's got 361, and he's still got a week to go. He really doesn't take any prisoners, does he?
No, he doesn't. I think it's a question of pride as far as Peter Sagan is concerned. It's a question of knocking away all of the time. The points classification is for points that you can garner at the finishing line and at these intermediate sprint points. And for Peter Sagan, it really is a measure of the most consistent rider in this competition. And he just wants to prove that he's always there. And he very, very rarely finishes outside the top 10 or 15.
Well, to give you some idea, Peter Sagan won in 2013 with 409, actually. In 2012, he won with 421. Mark Cavendish won the green jersey in 2011 with 334 points. So, in theory, he's got enough points in the bank to win already. But you never, ever take chances in the Tour de France. Nobody will ever tell you they've won the Tour until they get to Paris. Well, they're not really interested here. I think Sagan will pop out. He's got Brian Coquard in the very, very dark green jersey. He's going for it, so Sagan's going after him. Keep an eye on him. This is the French youngster in his first Tour as he tries to come up to the line, and it beats Sato on his back wheel. As it comes up, it looks as though he's got the points, but Sagan, he's got third place.
I think that was Mark Renshaw. Well, Sagan, Phil, he didn't want to go into his energy levels too much there. Just wanted to make sure he would get you know, third or fourth. In fact, he was fifth across the line after the two leaders crossed, so he was third in the sprint. So for him, again, it's a few more points as he chips away.
Yeah, he just lost.
Kwiatkowski coming to the front. He had that little flurry of activity just a few moments ago. The gap about half a minute. That's 500 meters. Don't look over your back shoulder now, Jack, because you'll see the main field. You've got to count. Well, this is Omega Pharma Quick-Step moving forward. That's Tony Martin.
Tony Martin, yeah.
You recognise his style.
The familiar punching style of Martin. If anybody can ride up to the two leaders, it's the world time trial champion. But that roundabout is drying out, as you can see, significantly. He's drying away here. He's doing a sacrificial job here to try and make the peloton close it down, possibly for Mark Renshaw to go head-to-head with Marcel Kittel, Alexander Kristoff, Andre Greipel.
Well, you know what? If they want to go to the finish line and catch these two riders, they need to stay on the wheel of Tony Martin. But now it's put the pressure onto somebody else. Look at this. This is Team Katusha. The red jerseys with the white stripe right down the middle. Tony Martin thinks, oops, I went a little bit too fast here. We're inside of the last 5 kilometers now, Phil, and every kilometer or so there is one of those roundabouts, and that's where it's precarious, that's where it's slippery, and that's where you've really got to watch out.
Well, what an amazing strength that German cyclist has. He rode away from the peloton, who are supposedly at the limit now to try and catch the bridge, a gap of just 30 seconds. Here comes Katusha now, revving it up. Nobody else. They pulled off Lotto Belisol. Katusha hoping to deliver Alexander Kristoff to the line.
Well, you know what? 30 seconds with 4 kilometers to go. It's touch and go as to whether or not those two riders off the front, and let's not forget Jack Bauer and Martin Elmiger, really create a little bit of a surprise here this afternoon, because after it's going to be almost 5 hours in the saddle this afternoon, these guys will be wondering if they've made a mistake or not.
Well, computers keeping out of this one now. It said they'd be caught at 19 kilometers. It's not making any comment at this stage of the race. 30 seconds, 3.5 kilometers to go. The bunch has just gone through the 4 kilometer marker. Somebody's taken an absolute flyer here as they leave the race. This is another counter move by Omega Pharma Quick-Step.
They realise now they've got to really throw caution to the wind. And again, Team Katusha at the front there are still trying to get themselves organised. Now it's Cannondale now trying to sort it out for open to second position. There is Peter Sagan.
And Sagan is now locked into a teammate. The two leaders have gone through 3 kilometers to go. They're still working well together. They are in desperate moments. The gap is holding at 28 seconds here. And I'm not too sure who this Amigo Pharma Quick-Step rider is, but I think it is Nicky Terpstra who's trying to get off the front.
Now, again, they're coming forward now. This is a little move as we start to slow them all down.
It's Golas, I think, who's trying to go clear.
The two leaders, though, are still holding on to 27 seconds.
Another change of attack at the front. They're at 3 kilometers to go. That's how close we are to the kilometer counters.
Well, again, Tony Martin has seen there's a little bit of weakness in the main field this afternoon, and he has opened up a smart advantage. He's taunting everybody else to try and chase him down, and it's putting pressure on the teams of the sprinters who seem to have run out of firepower. He knows that time is running out to catch the two leaders.
They cannot believe this. They cannot believe they're not catching these two riders. 24 seconds to go, just over 2 kilometers to go. This is an incredible show of defiance against the Tour de France. They've led the race for 219.5 kilometers. This is not the way it's supposed to be. Individually, riders are having a go. He's got a soft tyre.
Well, that was Daniele Bernate, and he was just bouncing in the back wheel there, and I think just as he started to make the attack, he felt there he's got the radio.
He's got a flat tyre.
That is just bad luck at a moment like this. We're inside now, 2 kilometers to go, and Tony Martin is still leading. It's 20 seconds to the two leaders as we come into another one of those roundabouts.
Well, thank heavens they have more or less dried these roads, but this would have been an extremely tricky run-in. Tony Martin pulls down his sunglasses. How ironic is that after the race they've been through? We are finishing this stage in glorious warm weather now, and these two riders are trying to get there first. 18 seconds, 1.5 kilometers to go. The sprinters are confused. They're trying to lead the sprinters out, but they can't catch the two up front.
Giant Shimano in control now, followed by Katusha. Now those two riders, they must continue to collaborate at the front of the group. If they start looking over their shoulders and making mistakes and trying to be tactical, they will see that 16 seconds get wiped away so quickly. These two guys, they've got to give it all now up until the last 200 meters or so. 1.2 kilometers to go at 15 seconds.
1 kilometer to go, Banner. 14 seconds the gap. Is it going to be end to end? Tony Martin still trying to bring them back. These two riders, just a kilometer to go. Is there any other scenario this year's Tour de France can throw at us? In trying to ride away from the sprinters and shut them down as the 900 meters to go. It is 12 seconds to the line. Martin Elmingen is saying, Jack, come through, but Jack wants to win.
Well, he does want to win. He's got into first position now, and Martin Elmiger has got the slipstream. Elmiger is a professional, has been around for many, many years. He's a crafty bike rider when it comes to a moment like this. They must not play too many tactical games because those time gaps will get wiped away. They're looking at 500 meters to go. The main field are very, very close. It's 9 seconds the gap now.
Well, this has been incredible. A stage of 222 kilometers. They've done 221.2. The sprinters started from behind. As now Elmiger goes, is Jack Bauer going to be able to finish this off and give Andrew Talansky, the injured race leader, a special present? Bauer has gone. This could be a rare victory for New Zealand. Julian Dean, I think, was the last man to get a victory. As the sprinters are coming right on him, is he going to hold it end to end? This is a desperate moment as the sprinters, and Christoph hits the line and gets to say, Paul, how unlucky. A matter of 10 meters and he lost the stage. Incredible.
Phil, sometimes the queen of cycling is very, very unfair on her subject, and she was this afternoon to Jack Bauer. I was pushing him at this moment there. He could see the victory. He could sense the victory at that point, but he was overtaken. He's still going to finish inside of the top 10 or 15 on a stage like today. The sprinters come back so very, very quickly. Heinrich Hausler over there on the right-hand side for IAM Cycling, but Alexander Kristoff, I have to say, really judged it to perfection.
Well, Mark Renshaw also tried desperately there to deliver his wife a birthday present. Look at the speed. Now, just look at the catch. And Kristoff goes by. Sagan in the green scurries through to try and grab a place, and I think he just gets in on the places there. Let's have a look.
Well, there you can see Kristoff followed by Hausler. Peter Sagan, Mr. Consistency, throwing for the line there as they come up to the photo finish. It's Greipel fourth, Renshaw fifth, and Brian Kokar in sixth. And look at
Jack
that,
Bauer
still
in seventh.
He's still there, Jack Bauer.
a breakaway of 222 kilometres, and you lose it when you could almost spit at the line. What an amazing tour.
Kristoff makes it win number 2. Here you can see Nîmes, which is nicknamed, by the way, the city of the crocodile, and poor old Jack Bauer. He knows he's been in a bike race this afternoon, and to lose out, I mean, he lost out there for 30, not even 30 metres, 20 metres, and he's still going to cross the line inside of the top 10. Really, that was quite a dramatic finish. There's Simon Gerrans and Luke Durbridge coming up. They've lost a couple of minutes, nothing too much to worry about for them. They're on the eve of the rest day. Watch Alexander Kristoff here, just shoulder to shoulder a little bit with Andre Greipel there as they look for the wheel of Mark Renshaw. They're all trying to find their way through the gap, but there as the sprint starts to get opened, Kristoff comes through the middle. Henrik Hausler, who's now starting to sprint a little bit better, comes up to finish second. Sagan third. Poor old Jack Bauer. And I think there'll be a lot of Kiwis out there who are a little disappointed with that after a 222. If it had been 221 kilometres today, he'd have won.